Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. And of course, you good old boys from Africa, you know we love the Big C drop of Big C. We love those good old boys up north, and we love them down south, but there's still nobody we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free, in the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going on a beautiful March 19th, 2018, Big C?
Well, Charlton, when I woke up this morning, I thought I'd slept through the weekend. You know, there was a movie several years ago called Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis where they switched bodies.
Yeah.
And so I woke up this morning and had a pimple on my forehead. So I thought I changed places with one of my grandkids or something.
You thought you went back in time. I understand sometimes that moonshine can do those things to you, Big C. It does weird things to you. I do want to say what a great world that we live in. In the sports universe, we have Tiger Woods making the golf world really start to roar again, Big C. Them good old boys are all loving what's coming up on the golf tournaments that Tiger Woods is a part of. We know March Madness has been exciting, but it lacks in comparison with even watching golf lately. To me, Big C, the Final Four is something that people will pay attention to, but Nevada's making some great statements in March Madness. A lot of good teams have been knocked off. And so we have to find out what happens when we get to the final 16, the Sweet 16, to see who really can make some noise. And also, Federer gave up a tournament down south at Indian Wells, so that's very rare to happen. And then, of course, the NBA is rolling along, and a lot of good teams are going to be playing each other. Big C, what were you most excited about this weekend?
Well, Charlton, I mean, there was a whole plethora of things. You know, you look at the NCAA tournament. I mean, this was a menagerie of upsets and excitement.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess that's why you call it March Madness.
Yeah.
But I think also with Loyola Chicago being, you know, a 16 seed, knocking off a #1 seed in Virginia for the first time in tourney history.
Yeah.
I mean, it gave the NCAA sort of a reprieve.
Yeah.
Because it took the FBI off their back and it put a nun in the forefront.
Yeah, that's funny. Isn't that funny? They brought the nun out there to pray for forgiveness, Big C. That's how I saw it. You think the nun helped a lot, Big C, your thoughts?
I think so. You know, I mean, you know, you're thinking you're representing a number 16 seed. It propelled you to, you know, victories all of a sudden. I mean, you know, they say God works in mysterious ways, but ever since Loyola Chicago started playing, the FBI has been silent.
Yeah, that's something else. You think about that, and just a good run they've had, 30-5 and 64. I mean, you think about how they got there. They beat Miami, a team that was expected to beat them, a number 6 seed, Loyola number 11, and 64-62 over Miami, and then to get past Tennessee by 1 point, you know, 63-62. It really shows that the smaller programs can have success whenever you win 30 games on any level. That's success, Big C. But no one gave them a chance. They were number 11 seed. We're not accustomed to seeing a number 11 seed shock the world. So, but you know, they shocked the world. And another program that they're playing in Atlanta coming up in the Sweet 16. You look at Nevada, the Wolfpack, with the largest come-from-behind win over Cincinnati. I think they took the lead finally with 9 seconds left in that game to win it 75-73. But they also have to come from behind to beat Texas, and they beat them 87-83. Your thoughts on some of the, I mean, players can play anywhere, but if you think about West Coast basketball, you think UCLA, Pac-12, you know, USC, Oregon, Stanford, but Nevada and Gonzaga are representing the West Coast. Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they have two teams from the West in the Sweet 16, and neither one of those are from a power conference, Charlton.
No.
When you look at it, no Pac-12 teams are in existence. Arizona went out in the first round.
Yeah.
But to have Nevada with two compelling victories that they've had, you know, coming back on Texas, they were being dominated. They were down by a dozen at halftime.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they surged back in the second half. They were down by 20 points at one point in the second half.
Yeah.
And they come back and overcome Texas in that game.
Yeah.
And you would have thought that they wouldn't have had any emotion or legs left coming up against Cincinnati, which was a powerhouse from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati dominated that game by a dozen at halftime.
Yeah.
Up by 22 at one point until Nevada went on a 32-8 run.
Yeah.
And finally took the lead, as you said, with 9 seconds to go. But what this is showing is that basketball has more parity than any sport there is. I mean, this takes me back to the early 80s when Chaminade, an NAIA school out of Hawaii, beat Virginia with Ralph Sampson, who was probably the most dominant college player of his era. 3-time college basketball player of the year. And they go over and get beat in a Christmas tournament. And no one even knew who Chaminade was. You know, they thought somebody was trying to say Christmas and couldn't get it out. They've been drinking too much moonshine or something.
I thought it was a flavor of Kool-Aid, Big C. That's what I was thinking until I Googled it.
So, you know, when you look at the Baltimore, you know, beating Virginia, that compared to that, Charles. You know, when you look at it. And when people say, you know, it's the greatest upset in college basketball history, I don't know if it's the greatest upset in college basketball history because they were a tournament team, at least, okay? You got to go back to Chaminade beating Virginia, and then I think the most shocking victory in tournament history was when North Carolina State beat Houston and beat Phi Slamma Jamma.
That was a big game.
A team that was slated by everybody to be hands down national championship because the game that they had played in the semifinals where they just dominated and you know, walked to the championship game and everybody said, you know, this is all over. North Carolina State doesn't stand a chance. But every year in the NCAA, there's always that Cinderella that you look for. If you go back a few years ago when Brad Stevens was coaching Butler, I believe it was, and took them to back-to-back Final Fours. So every year there's always going to be that dark horse, that glass slipper. But that's the greatest thing about competitive athletics.
We love it.
All of us experts, we're just dumb as any other fan.
Sometimes my Google gets stuck, Big C, so I understand. I'm kind of mad at my friend from Las Vegas because when he told me don't expect a Big C to come out of the West Coast, it'll be someone from the West, but it'll be more smaller conferences, Big C. I kind of thought that he was BSing me, Big C, so I didn't really listen to him when he told me, you know, who to put the money on, Big C. But I think maybe I'll listen to him next time. But I'm really, you know, proud of Nevada coming out, and then Gonzaga also. They've been doing it for 20 years, so they've moved on.
They were in the Final Four last year, Joe.
Gonzaga.
I mean, you know, Gonzaga. This is not new neighborhoods for them. They've gotten better and better each year under Mark Few out there. This is that program that doesn't get the national notoriety. They're always in the top 25. But players now understand if I go to Gonzaga, that I'm going to be put on that national scale and I'm going to be rated. They're no longer a dark horse hidden up there in Spokane, Washington. They're on the main stage with everybody now.
Well, speaking of being on the main stage, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You could drive a car or you could drive a Cadillac. I look at another program in the Western bracket, Michigan and Texas A&M. You look at Michigan with a 64-63 win over Houston to get into the next bracket, and then A&M, you know, get a beat down of North Carolina. I'm sure Michael Jordan a little bit of, maybe you sip Michael Jordan some of that moonshine, Big C. I think maybe they should have had the non-brand for North Carolina, not what you expect, a 20-point loss. When you look at A&M, I'm sure the basketball program is doing what they hired Jimbo Fisher to do, which is getting to the playoffs. I doubt if it's going to happen for football, Big C, the way it's happened for basketball. But think about the big losses. North Carolina going down, a number 2 seed, losing by 20 points to A&M. And A&M's not bad. They were, you know, a number 7 seed coming to the tournament. Arizona getting beaten down by 20 points in their game. And no one really expected that to happen. You expect them to play better. And then Virginia, man, they gave it up big time also. So teams are being knocked off. But we have marquee programs losing by 20 points. Big C, I think this goes to show that when you talk about parity in sports, it's not just the big programs, the marquee programs that are going to get the top talent. All you got to do in March Madness is get hot, get on the streak, and you could knock off anybody. But 20 points, Big C, how can we get that such of a margin, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, right off the back, we're not going to have a repeat champ because North Carolina's gone. Okay, but when you look at the state of Texas, they put 3 teams into the tournament.
Yeah.
You put the University of Texas, that they were knocked off.
Yeah.
You put in Texas Tech, that won the conference.
Yeah.
They were knocked off.
Yeah.
Who's left over? Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And Texas A&M has some athletes on the team.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one of the things you got to look at, Charlton, when you look at these non-marquee programs that are advancing here in the tournament,
Yeah.
is that they have juniors and seniors on their teams that are leading the team. They're leading the way.
Yeah.
They're not the one-and-done universities. And that's why we don't hear about them, because they don't bring in the diaper dandies, as they say, the top 100 recruits in the country.
Yeah.
And they're gone after a year. They've burned themselves off. So you're looking at, half of the Sweet 16, Charlton.
Yeah.
And most of them have juniors and seniors as their starters.
Yeah.
And that's what's making the difference here in the tournament, is that you have teams that are built for the long haul, that they're veteran-laden.
Yeah.
And when we look at Nevada, and they're starting 3 seniors on their team.
Yeah.
This was a team that learned how to work through adversity over the years, and having a great coach is Musselman.
Oh, yeah.
Who has coached in the NBA with a couple in the NBA teams, and right there on the West Coast in Sacramento,
Yeah. Sacramento,
where he's also coached.
Yeah.
In the NBA. So he understands how to bring a team through adversity.
Yeah.
And when you have a team with juniors and seniors, rather,
They played together.
it's like having a veteran NBA team.
Yeah.
Guys that have spent 2 and 3 and 4 seasons together,
Yeah.
knowing how to work the intangibles.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with Loyola. We see that with Gonzaga. We see that with A&M, Charlton.
Yeah.
You see that with these teams that have been together, that have made huge strides.
Yeah. No, that's
And, you get a lot of that at Syracuse with Boeheim.
Yeah.
You think about it, he knocks off Michigan State.
Yeah.
You think about it, this is a team, and this was so unprecedented about the Syracuse victory. They had 3 offensive rebounds in the game.
Yeah.
3 offensive rebounds and 1 assist.
Yeah.
Unheard of. Michigan State had 29 offensive rebounds and lost.
Yeah. That's hard to do.
Talk about coaching.
Yeah.
And Jim Boeheim right now has done the greatest job of any coach in the tournament. Whether they lose or win their next game, Jim Boeheim, when he took Syracuse to what they just went through with Michigan State,
Yeah.
and I guess Tom Izzo has to talk now.
Yeah.
But because the players are not,
They're not
you can't say,
talking.
well, I'm here for the players now. That's over with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, Big C. And I think maybe, just maybe, we think about how this all has come together. It's a big money grab. It is exciting. I just love to see some of that money shared with other people. And I want to just bring up this point. It was 1968 when the Kerner Commission was issued, and President Lyndon Baines Johnson, he had Illinois Governor Otto Kerner. He had a 12-member advisory panel, and it was about studying civil disorders. And it all came to do with money and race and how there was 2 societies, so one black, one white, and what it was parallel to, one had money and the other did not. And to see that 50 years later, we have the same thing happening when it comes to March Madness, where a lot of these young African-American players are being recruited to play for schools to make it a multi-billion-dollar industry, or at least multi-hundred-million-dollar industry, and there's still no talk on how to make it fair for players. But 50 years has passed, and we're going into the Sweet 16, Big C. Can we just realize for a second, the NCAA, irrespective of the schools, they make money for all the games. Where some schools' season came to an end, whether it's North Carolina or schools like Houston or Ohio State, their seasons came to an end. But the NCAA, they keep rolling that money back. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they keep rolling it back. I checked on ticket prices down here in the South,
Yeah.
Sweet 16 regional.
Yeah.
For a 2-game package, $324, for the price of the tickets for fans to get in.
Yeah.
To watch these 2 games that are going to be played down here. Actually, it's going to be 3 games played. But, no, it's actually 2. That's it.
Yeah.
But you think about that. That's a lot of money. That's normally a season ticket package at home teams arena.
Yeah, it sure is.
That you can buy those tickets for.
Yeah.
And they're talking about 2 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you talk about the money grab being there and there's no money, you can't find a reason why you should pay players or you're going to pay players. Well, think about it from this perspective.
Yeah.
Each team in the tournament receives X amount of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's escalated every game that you advance.
Yeah.
Now, they say this money goes back to the general funds of the universities.
Yep.
Okay? The players are the ones producing the money.
Yeah.
They're the ones out there with their sweat and tears and hustle.
Yeah.
But nobody's saying it's worth anything.
No, I know.
But the university and the athletic departments, and matter of fact, the entire conference gets a cut.
Yep.
That they're in. If you're an independent, you keep it all.
Yeah, that's true.
So these are the things you got to look at. As the independent teams, when they make the tournament, they keep every bit that they have when they're in.
Yeah, and it's a thing. Yeah, you're right.
How do you justify that you can't pay a player?
Yeah. Well, I think about it because I know Dr. King lost his life, 50 years ago, April 4th. And when we think about all of the marches, it wasn't marching necessarily so people could live in an integrated neighborhood. That really wasn't the reason for all the marches. It was about creating equality and financial equality. And you could be living in a neighborhood with a diverse population, but if you don't have income, it doesn't matter what you have. And I still see that being repeated by the power structure, and that's the NCAA, and it's predominantly a white institution. And it's just a shame. And as I look at March Madness, and we're all, a lot of us gather around the television and listen to the radio, and we want to know what team beat who, and is our bracket still good or not. But what Dr. King was marching for back then 50 years ago, I know he was told to shut up and stay in his lane also, but that's still some issues affecting people. You mentioned the ticket prices. A lot of these kids that are recruited, their parents don't have $600 to drop on one or two games. And airline travel alone, just getting there. So I just
think about Nevada, Charleston.
Yeah.
And Gonzaga. Okay, Nevada here they were playing in Tennessee.
Yeah. Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee. And so they were there for 4 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And now they're in Atlanta.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if they go back to school to deal with any school time.
Of course they do. Big C, they're student athletes. Haven't you heard? They're student athletes first.
Or they just leave Knoxville and go hang out in Atlanta for the next 4 days. So that's a 10-day road trip technically.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it.
Yep.
And so that's 10 days without school. And I guess, they have to go to McDonald's or whatever, pool their money to eat.
No.
Something like that.
It is not McDonald's.
Chick-fil-A is big in the South, so I guess they'll go have some chicken sandwiches.
They'll grab some chicken sandwiches.
But look at Gonzaga. They played, I believe, in Texas?
Yeah, Gonzaga.
And so here it is. You got two West Coast schools being stuck in the...
No, but actually Gonzaga was in Boise, Idaho. Gonzaga was Boise, Idaho. But still, that's
Boise,
a travel.
Idaho.
Yeah.
But they're away from home for all this time.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that these are student athletes or athlete students.
Yep.
But they can't get any money. And so if they order room service, does that make them ineligible? I'm trying to figure that out.
Hey, what I did realize, though, for you good old boys that travel a lot, when you check into a hotel and you're thirsty, man, you either drink out of the sink or you open that refrigerator. They got all that water bottle. I think, okay, you paid a few $100s for the hotel, so you get what you pay for. But I was so thirsty, I said, they're so nice, they left me some water. I got like 8 bottled waters, Big C. When I left out those 8 bottled waters, I could have bought 4 whole packages of water for what they charged me for 8 bottled waters, Big C. That stuff's expensive. I think they get a big markup. But it's all fair in love and war. I look out here in the East bracket also. Villanova, and love that program, what they've done, with their academics as well as what they've done with their basketball program. Knocking off Alabama, you good old boys. I guess Alabama's focused on football more than playing defense. They lost 81-58 in that game, Big C, and they'll take on West Virginia. Got the win. Actually, it's West Virginia the win over Marshall. So 2 teams are in the similar region. But Villanova, West Virginia should be good basketball. But I want to get your thoughts on Purdue and Texas Tech. That should be a good matchup. But Kansas and Clemson. coming out of the Midwest, Kansas knocking off Seton Hall, close win, 83-79. But Clemson did what no one really expected. A lot of people had Auburn at least winning that game, a close win, but to win it. But for them to get jumped on the way they did by Clemson, Clemson's playing like their football program. They're starting to advance in every sport. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Auburn came in highly touted. Bruce Pearl had turned that program around, but you think about Clemson, they're right there in Tobacco Road, really, in South Carolina, North Carolina. There's so many great athletes in that region of the country.
Yeah.
And for them to go out and dominate Auburn the way that they did, no one expected it. But like we said, this is what March Madness brings to everybody. And, Bruce Pearl didn't have a happy 58th birthday.
No.
Because that's what he was expecting, the day afterwards, he would be happy on that day. But it was a sad birthday party for him, after he had been pushed to the limits like that.
Yeah.
But, when we think about just these programs.
Yeah.
And nobody's bracket is good anymore.
No.
Period. I don't care what you say. Even if you have Villanova to win the tournament or Kentucky.
Yeah.
And they're going to be favorites, right now if you look at what the 16 teams is left over.
Yeah.
But nobody's bracket is good.
No. Well, I tell you what, when it comes to coaching, I think you can see a coaching clinic when you look at Boeheim and Krzyzewski with Duke and Syracuse coming out of that Midwest bracket. And then Syracuse with a close win over Michigan State. A lot of people like Michigan State in that one with Izzo. And then Duke getting a big win over Rhode Island. I think they showed Rhode Island that this is the big boys right here, Big C. But Duke and Syracuse, both teams very physical. Every year, these are staple programs. You know how we say that football's better when USC's good, Notre Dame's good, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Alabama, Penn State, UCLA. Those programs, when they're good, it makes college football better. I cannot imagine a tournament that has been as consistent as Duke and what Krzyzewski has done, and the fact that they have to always get past the North Carolina in their conference, as well as all the non-conference games they play. What has he done to make it so easy for them to make it seem like it's just automatic that Duke gets in? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's a legacy that he has built there at Duke.
Yeah.
When you come there, you're always going to go to one of the top flight basketball programs in the country. And when you're recruited by Duke, you're one of the elite basketball players in the country.
Yeah.
Now, for years, Syracuse was in the Big East until that conference disbanded.
Yeah.
Now they're a member of the ACC.
Yeah.
Same conference with North Carolina and Duke, and they're part of that run now.
Yeah.
And so when you see what they do, and now they face each other twice during the regular season, and now they're facing each other in the tournament. And these are two of the greatest coaching minds in the NCAA. They both coached on the Olympic team together.
Yeah.
Won gold medals there, coached in the World Games.
Yeah.
So they know each other. They understand each other's style.
Yeah.
But what Boeheim does is he's probably the greatest zone coach in college basketball history.
Yeah.
Dean Smith used to run the zone, but what Jim Boeheim has done with it, and that's Tom Izzo in Michigan State.
Yeah.
When they go into that zone and no one can figure out what they're doing because it's so tenacious and the speed that he coaches defensively. People can always talk about the offensive paralysis of a team.
Yep.
But what you work on in basketball more than anything is defensive speed.
Yeah, and that
and
really
if you
showed.
have defensive speed, you can shut down the best offenses around.
Yeah, and that showed. And so we'll look forward to good March Madness. On the women's side, we have Oregon playing Minnesota, Ohio State, Central Michigan. And they have, good basketball all around for the men's and the women's program. But I just want to get a thought on Connecticut, the beat down at 140 to 52 over St. Francis, Pennsylvania. Of course, Connecticut 33-0, best team in the basketball universe under Coach Gino Auriemma, and St. Francis out of Pennsylvania 24-10. I don't know if they have a mercy rule, but that's one they really could have had a mercy rule, or at least that nun praying for them. Big C, your thoughts?
You saw two of the ladies' games like that. Baylor was the same way over Grambling, Charles.
Yeah.
But when you think about Connecticut, it's a juggernaut.
Yeah.
And it's there every year.
Yep.
it's that, you talk about Krzyzewski and how Duke keeps getting these top flight men's players, Charlie.
Yeah.
I think there's a waiting list applying for University of Connecticut's women's team.
Yeah. Yeah.
These girls, these young ladies, I mean, Coach Auriemma keeps finding them. Are they finding him? I mean, they're sending notes, letters.
They Google him. They Google him, Big Z.
They're begging. Please don't reject me.
Right.
And they know that if you go to Connecticut, you have legacy to uphold.
Yeah.
You're not going there to compete.
Yep.
You're going there because you have a legacy to uphold.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be a member of that team that doesn't uphold that legacy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest challenge of any young lady going there. And the greatest drive also.
Yep.
Is that here's a team that has made history. It's almost like with John Wooden.
Yeah.
When he was coaching UCLA back in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Is that when you went there, and even in the late 60s, when you went there, you didn't want to be the player on the team that did not continue the legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a guy that won 10 national titles and several consecutive titles.
Yeah.
And so every year that those next group came in, because you couldn't play freshman basketball when Wooden was coaching.
No.
You had to be a sophomore. Otherwise, Kareem would have won probably 4 titles out there.
Yeah.
But, you had to wait. And so you sit there and you watch the team win a national championship in front of you. And you say, God, I don't want to be the team that didn't win.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the greatest driving force at UCLA, and I see that being the greatest driving force at the University of Connecticut's women's program.
Yeah, they've already had a great program, especially to have a man coaching women and having the success that he's had with them and being able to listen to them and do things his way. And I know a lot of times people say, well, the men get all the success and all the praise and all the credit. But when UConn's basketball team is on TV, they also get a lot of attention too. So they hold their own, but they do it. They've earned it. They do it the way you have to do it. You got to win it while you're given the chance. I also want to touch on something out in Southern California. When I look at Federer, and no one expects him to lose. He's 17-1. In his last 18 contests, he lost at Indian Wells. And I think about how successful he's been. We talk about Duke, Big C, and how do you always rise to the occasion? How do you always make sure that no matter what happens, what year it is, if you have injuries or not, because people have that too, he's always managed to stay, if not number 1, then at least number 2. And that goes a lot to say how much he's conditioned, how much he takes his game serious. But everybody else is trying also. But when I look at someone like Federer, he got knocked out. It's not as if he's done. He lost to the number 6 seed Juan Martin Del Prado, and it just shows any given tournament, whether it's basketball or tennis, you could be knocked out, Big C. That shows how great he's been and how consistent he's been, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, y'all also look at this. Everybody that Federer faces, it's their championship.
Yeah.
Okay? You want to play the top seed, and I don't care who you are as a competitor.
Yeah.
You want to go up against the top seed teams. You don't sit there and say, well, they're better than me.
Yeah.
And this is what he faces.
Yeah.
And so every tournament that he's in, he's always getting the best of an opponent that they have to give.
Yeah.
They don't take a day off against Federer.
No.
They're playing Federer. And so this is what happened in that scenario.
Yeah.
You get a little tired because you're playing more rounds of golf than anybody else.
Yeah.
That's what happened. I mean, not golf, but tennis.
Yeah.
That's what Federer's doing. When you're always in the finals, that means you're always playing those extra rounds.
Yeah.
And so, we talked about that in our last show about horses that run in the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
And lose. They don't always run in the Preakness and the Belmont.
Yeah.
And so here's a scenario where Federer is playing every round. And these guys, if he hasn't played Johnson, his opponent hasn't played in a tournament or two.
Yeah.
His legs are a lot fresher.
Yeah, it all can happen. It can sneak up on you, but it just shows when you can go 17-1, over your last 18 contests. That shows how dominant he can be. And so a lot happened in Southern California. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Also in Southern California, the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Auto Club. I'm telling you, Fontana, California, is kind of out in the valley of Southern California, in the Inland Valley, east of Los Angeles, about 60 miles. A lot of race cars, 200 miles per hour, and Martin Truex won. And then the favorite was Kyle Larson, as well as Kyle Busch coming in second and third. But when you can drive over 200 miles per hour, when you finish the race, don't you win, Big C? Would you call that a win? Just finishing, driving over 200 miles per hour, Big C?
Well, Charlton, every time that I've done that, I always figured that I won.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think about these NASCAR races, Charlton.
Yeah.
I mean, these are madmen.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was started from the days of moonshine, and that's where NASCAR came from.
Yeah.
But, the endurance factor of these guys, and Mark, just running, the wheels off a car.
Yeah.
And, I guess when you're out there on the West Coast, they don't get the same backing that they get back here.
No, we don't.
So,
it's watered down.
Be looking at things from a different angle.
Yeah. It's watered down out here at Big Z. We don't get the whole, like Billy D. Williams told us, don't let the smooth things fool you. He was talking about California, Big Z, because it is a little bit watered down. But love the race car industry. Love so much about what's going on in the sports universe. And thinking about that, when I look at the NBA and I look at some of the teams that are playing and positioning themselves, I look at what's going on right now. Look at Cleveland. Not only have they to overcome the issues with trading players and getting a new cast, and then you look at Kevin Love, and he's injured. Thompson's injured, and now Tyronn Lue steps aside. I guess for some other reasons that I don't know the whole story on, Big C. But even if they get back into the playoffs, there's no chemistry right now with LeBron James and the Cavaliers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they just came off their longest road streak of the season.
Yeah.
And they were only 3-3.
Yeah.
They only beat one team with a winning record.
Yeah.
You think about that. You only beat one team with a winning record.
Yeah.
Now, every team in your division that's ahead of you have a winning record. So they're back home playing Milwaukee tonight.
Yeah.
Tyronn Lue stepped down.
Yeah.
Because of medical issues, and so he's going to be out. There's no set timetable for him to return.
Right.
But Mike Glenn is going to step in as head coach, who is very capable.
Oh, yeah.
He was a former player in the league. He's been on the bench for a long time, Charlton.
Yep.
So he understands the game.
Yeah.
He understands this team.
Yep.
And so where Cleveland is right now, they're not going to have a home court advantage. There's no way they can overtake Boston.
Yeah.
Or Toronto in the East, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're right now, they're almost on a respirator.
Yeah.
So the power structure has changed on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And Cleveland is just a team right now that doesn't have chemistry.
No, they don't.
And so they're middle of the pack team.
Yeah.
And so that chemistry is not going to come back between now and the playoff run. Everybody thought that, even us to a degree, when that trade was made, right before the playoff, the All-Star series, that this team might have, had some momentum coming.
Yeah.
They won 2 quick games, but that was because those players weren't used to being in a winning situation.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they got back to reality and said, okay, we're just role players.
Yeah.
And none of them are dominating right now.
Yeah.
So Cleveland is just hanging on, hoping to not fall below the 6th seed in the Eastern Division, Charles.
Yeah, and you look at their game against Milwaukee tonight, and they have they're a 2-point favorite. That game's in Cleveland. But there's a lot going on, swirling around that organization, and a lot of teams are facing that. We have tonight Indiana. They're playing against the Lakers, and that game, it's a grab 'em game. It's a pick 'em game. It's in Indiana. So that tells you something's going on in that organization. Philadelphia's 8-point favorite over Charlotte, and you have Miami. They're playing Denver. Miami, don't know about Miami. They come out to the West Coast, didn't fare very well against Sacramento as well as the Clippers. We know they were beaten up by Portland as well. And then New York, they're playing Chicago. Brooklyn, they're actually a favorite for a chance. I thought I was the type of Brooklyn's favorite for a change, and they're playing Memphis. And then San Antonio and Golden State is a game deep in the heart of Texas. San Antonio is actually a 6.5-point favorite, and Detroit's favored by 2 over Sacramento. But I want to get you back to San Antonio and also Golden State. To me, Big C, if there's anything that Golden State can do to show that they're really going to be the team that can still challenge for a championship, they don't have Steph Curry. He's out with the ankle. Klay Thompson has a thumb injury. Draymond Green has an injured shoulder. And then Kevin Durant has a rib injury. Now, if you think about that, going into San Antonio that's desperate for a win, Golden State, even though it's a game they could afford to drop, they really can't afford to drop it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what does everybody complain about, especially from a media perspective and fan perspective, late in the season?
Tanking
Is
sometimes?
the teams are resting their best players.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We've heard that for the last 3 years in the NBA. Well, these top teams are resting their players. And there's no excuse for resting them. They're healthy, let them play.
Yeah.
Golden State right now has 4 legitimate excuses for resting players.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so you got Steph with the ankle. There's no time frame on that. You got Durant. You can't, diagnose ribs.
Right.
You got Thompson. He broke his thumb.
Yeah.
You got Green, who was hobbling out of a game the other night.
Yep.
So resting of players right now, whether it's intentional or unintentional,
Yeah.
is the best thing for this team.
Yeah.
You have to understand, and I don't think everybody understands this at the beginning, at the midway point, or even late in the season from a fan's perspective.
Yeah.
Even the media. You have to win 16 games to win an NBA title.
Yeah.
You have to win 16. That's what you have to do to win an NBA title, is win 16 games. And so you're trying to find a way to win 16 games, to have your team the healthiest to get through that stretch.
Yeah.
To win the 16 games. You got to win 16 out of 28, I believe it is, something like that, 16 out of 30.
Yeah.
Whatever it is it takes to win an NBA title.
Yeah.
You got to do that. And so that's what you're positioning yourself for.
Yeah.
Is to go on that 16-game session where you can win 16 out of 28 games
Yep.
to win an NBA title. All the rest is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And so being healthy is the major point that you want to have right now at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So you can limp to the finish line.
Yeah.
You can win 10 games.
Yeah.
You can finish 10 games behind Houston.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a difference. You're facing each other in the finals, the
Yeah.
Western Finals.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. You got to win 4 out of 7.
Yeah.
And so if you're healthier than Houston, that you can win 4 out of 7. I think about Houston last year when they lost Nene.
Yeah.
They lost their center, so they had no big presence in the middle. And so they couldn't overcome that.
Yep.
You look at Golden State in the playoffs, Charlotte, they were healthy.
Yeah.
They were a racehorse.
Yep.
And they just ran up and down the court. They were, 16-1 in the playoffs last year?
Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
16-1. They weren't pushed to the limits in any series.
No.
And so that's what they recognize.
Yeah.
And even Curry, he'll sit back right now. If you listen to him, it's like, oh, me, oh, me.
Yeah.
Somebody feels sorry for us.
Yeah.
And everybody in the media is like, well, this is a changing of the guard, you know. And even in Cleveland, you got to give it a lot of credence because in the playoffs, LeBron's going to play bully ball.
Oh, yeah.
For 28 games, if they go that far, he's going to play bully ball.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what he's looking at doing.
Yeah.
And so everybody that writes off Cleveland right now, Kevin Love is supposed to be back tonight.
Yeah.
Coming back off that hand injury. That's going to give them some offense.
Yeah.
That they've been much needing.
Yeah.
Steph Curry's out of the lineup in Golden State as well as Thompson and Durant, Green.
Yeah.
So what this is allowing is for their role players to get critical minutes in critical games.
Yeah.
So that if they're called on in the playoffs, Charlton, they know what to expect from them instead of bringing in a guy who hasn't played more than 5 minutes in a game in a month and a half that matters.
Yeah.
That's what helps your team in the playoffs.
Yeah. That's a good point, too. You think about San Antonio and Coach Pop and doing this thing for 20 years consistent. That's like Duke of the NBA with Krzyzewski down there. They're always in it. And, of course, Kawhi Leonard, is he in, is he out? He's still injured. I'll never forget what I heard Shaq and also Barkley say. on a TV program. They were saying they wish they had not always listened to their doctor for the team doctor, because they wouldn't have some of the injuries and the pain they have right now. So whether Leonard plays or not, I think he has to think about his long-term health and not worry about what else is going on. I want to look at two great games that were just happening, over the week. I look at Toronto and I look at OKC. Now, Toronto's been relatively healthy. OKC, same thing for them for the most part. But that game, when I look at Westbrook and how dominant he is, for them to get a win against Toronto, you can't win every game. We saw Houston drop the game at Toronto, and then Toronto drops the game, to OKC. And I still think Toronto's the number one seed in the East. They're just outside of the country, up there in Canada. So a lot of people forget about them sometimes, and they sleep on them good old boys. But I still like the way they're playing. But I got to get your thoughts on a game that's coming up, Dixie, on Tuesday. I look at Portland. The Trailblazers are balling. I mean, they're really lighting up the NBA right now, and they're going to play against Houston. And these two programs right now in the West, I think they're playing the best basketball right now on the West Coast, and maybe all the NBA outside of Toronto. And if you look at Portland, they need this win more than Houston does. If not, it's just going to be another Houston win. But I think Portland could get them. You look at Portland 14 in a row. They're playing Houston, two teams that are primed. But would you give the advantage to either one of those programs heading into this big showdown on Tuesday, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is a pretty even match when you look at the two teams. These are two teams that are driven by their guards. And so that's going to be the main factor in how both of these teams play, Charlton, is how their guards produce.
And
their big men are just accessories, to the guards' play.
Yeah.
They're right now jockeying, for number 1 and number 3 position in the West.
Yeah.
But, you look at this hot streak that Portland is on.
Yeah.
And they really go under the media radar because of where they're located at.
Yeah.
And they haven't been that sexy story. As well as Lillard has played for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
The focus on the guards in the West, think about it. It was Curry.
Yeah.
Then it was Westbrook. Now it's Harden.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard has played as well as all of these players, Charlton.
He has.
And so when you look at the West, it's all dominated by guards. When you look at the East, it was mainly dominated by forwards and big men.
Yeah.
And so it's a guard division where you got 4 of the top guards in the NBA always competing against each other.
Yeah.
And then you think about it, 3 of them, it'll be 3 consecutive MVPs that come out of that group of 4.
Yeah.
So Harden will get the MVP this year.
Yeah.
But Lillard, will have to be in the top 4 or 5 in the voting also.
Yeah.
Steph Curry has fallen off with the ankle injuries this year, so he's not going to be in the running.
No.
But this is a pretty even matchup. And, it's just a matter of who has the hottest streak in the game.
Well, I tell you, that game's at Portland at nighttime. It's a 10:30 start East Coast time, and it's at the Moda Center. They have some of the most ravenous fans of the NBA. I mean, what else can you do when it's raining all the time? You got to find something to yell about, Big C. But it's a gorgeous city. Portland's an absolutely beautiful city up in the great Northwest. And I look at some of the players for Houston that have dealt with injuries this year. When we talk about resting players, and we talk about coming down the stretch, and you can't always go into the final week of the season playing all your top players and not taking the time off. If you look at how good the Rockets have been, Chris Paul has missed 18 games this year, and maybe, you got to think about that. They want that number 1 seed so bad, but will he be healthy when they cross that finish line? Ba Mute's missed 17, Trevor Ariza's missed 13, and Ryan Anderson's missed 11. And when you look at Portland, they've been relatively healthy. Not too much injury to complain about, as long as they keep Lillard healthy. But they can't lose Lillard either, because he's really the only reason they have to even be the number 3 seed coming out of the West. I really look forward to that. I look at even Jimmy Butler with his meniscus injury, and that required surgery. That hurts the Timberwolves' chances. I know they're battling Portland. They're hoping that Portland falls, but I don't think Portland's going to fall in that game against Houston. Might be the second time that Houston's lost to a team that's atop the division. Would that be a blow to the psyche? They've already lost to Toronto on the road, And now if they get beat by Portland on the road, does that hurt their chances or their psyche, Big C, going forward? Your thoughts?
No, Charlton, as a professional, you're a competitor.
Yeah.
And you don't expect teams to lay down for you, especially a top team in the division. All this is a prelude to what will occur in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You would like to dominate that opponent prior to the playoffs, but it's not the playoffs. The playoffs are the games that you concern yourself with now. Houston's been on a tremendous run all year long.
Yeah.
They're not going to back off. You know, that they have firepower to compete with anybody, whether it's home or on the road.
Yeah.
They faced each other several times, and that's the thing about being in the same division. You're going to face each other several times throughout the season.
Yeah.
This is just another game, really, in the end. You want to get to the playoffs. That's where it matters. And you talked about Chris Paul and the games that he missed. Most of those games are early part of the season when he came over in the trade, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he was injured at the start of the season. So about 10 of those games all took place at that time, 10 to a dozen of those games.
Yeah.
But, you know, Chris Paul, his main thing is how will he be in the playoffs?
Yeah.
He's always had season-ending injuries late in the year that has hurt his playoff run.
Yeah.
And so it's critical for him to get enough rest to stay healthy, and he doesn't have to shoulder the load any longer at point guard. That's a shared duty in Houston.
Yeah.
So that's going to make him even tougher come playoff time because he's a clutch player.
Yeah. I tell you what, he's clutch, and when he was injured, Big C, it was at Portland when he was playing for the Clippers. Something to keep in mind. So if you look at the NBA in the Western Conference, you have Houston 55-14, and San Antonio's 15.5 behind them. In the Northwest, you have Portland 43-26. They're tied with OKC with the win column, but they're 1.5 ahead in the loss column at 43-29. And Golden State 53-17, and the Clippers are way behind 15, back at 37-31. Over in the Eastern Conference, them good old boys from Canada, 52-18. Them good old boys. And then Boston's now 5 games out. They're starting to slip at 47-23. In the Southeast Division, Washington is 40-30, followed by Miami 3 games out at 37-33. And then Cleveland, with Tyronn Lue being out now, they're 40-29, just a half game up of Indiana. Imagine Cleveland, if they don't turn things around and get some, get that chemistry back and Love back and Thompson, they may not even win their own conference, Big C. That's a big thing. I do want to close out on something that I know a lot of people have been watching lately, and it's done well for TV. It's done well for the networks. It's done well for the golf shops all over the country. It's done well especially for viewership, and his name is Tiger Woods, as the number 1 draw in golf in the universe. Tiger Woods, whether he wins or not, I want to just draw a comparison between Tiger and players that retire, because people are written off Tiger Woods, Big C. Not only did they write him off too soon, anyone can have pain and play through it. Sometimes you can't, but not many people can have surgeries and then come back and play. Big C, just give me your thought on what Tiger Woods means to the golf universe, the same golf universe that had kind of written him off for a long time. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's well beyond just the golf universe, Charlton. When you look at the whole spectrum of sports, there's not been many people in the history of sports that have had that magnetism that draws everybody to when you're competing.
Yeah.
And that's what Tiger has. I mean, we thought about that when Jordan was on television.
Yeah.
He was must-see TV.
Yeah.
We thought about that when Mike Tyson was fighting.
Yeah.
He was must-see television, pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And so, that's what Tiger Woods has been his entire career.
Yeah.
He has been must-see television. Regardless of what else is going on, Tiger is the event.
Yeah.
Even in this tournament he was just in, the Arnold Palmer Classic, Charlton, at Bay Hill, he was the event. Even when he knocked the ball out of bounds on the 16th, I believe it was.
Yeah, 16th.
He had drawn within one shot of the lead.
Yeah.
He was not going to catch McIlroy anyway. You think about McIlroy, he birdied his last 5 holes.
Oh, he's amazing.
And Tiger was a shot behind it, and this was his first victory since 2016 on the major tournament tour.
Yeah.
So, you think about Tiger and the gallery that he drew, the attendance at the course as well as on television.
Yeah.
He has done something about rejuvenation, not just to himself, but to the psyche of viewers and the casual golfer, is that Tiger is magic.
Yeah.
As much as you said people wanted to write him off because people always think that they can be the first person to write that story that ended something.
Yeah.
You know, that they want to be the first ones to capture an event.
Yeah.
And Tiger wasn't buying into that event. Tiger took his time, went through his surgeries. He's come back. You know, you think about the strides that he's taken to be competitive once again.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody wants, that fishbowl of Tiger.
Yeah.
You know, you're not leading the tournament, but you're the biggest story for 4 days.
Yeah.
You know, at no point has Tiger led a tournament this year.
Yeah.
But all the winners have been second and third fiddle to Tiger. As great as Roy played, and Roy shot a 64
he was amazing
on Sunday.
Yeah.
800.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's an amazing round of golf. You can't lose when you shoot a 64.
Yeah.
And so even if Tiger had a shot, you know, he would have had to shoot at least the same.
Yeah.
You know, 69 wasn't going to do it.
No.
Tiger would have had to shoot a 64 also.
Yeah. Well,
But, you know, this is just what golf is. But he brought something to everybody's psyche this weekend.
Yeah.
And March Madness didn't like it at all.
No.
You know, because you had to flick through 3 or 4 channels to watch the basketball game.
Yeah.
You left it on one channel, you saw Tiger.
Yeah.
You saw Tiger competing until the very end.
Yeah.
And that's what held everybody on this golf tournament. And when he drew within one, I don't think but 3 people were left watching basketball over the weekend.
You know, it's interesting, Big C. I was doing an AAU basketball over the weekend, and I think there must have been 1,000 kids on various courts coming in and out for a tournament over the weekend. And they have the TVs up. There must have been about 12 courts. They have the TVs there, and they had some March Madness on some, and they had some golf on others. Now, I'm talking about teenage boys and girls that were playing AAU basketball. And not only were there college recruits there, lots of parents, lots of teams from all over the region in Northern California. But ironically, as many people were playing a game and their game finished before the next game, they were looking some at March Madness, but more people were paying attention to golf. They were trying to see who would win the Arnold Palmer Classic, whether it was going to be Tiger Woods and whoever else. I'm talking about teenage boys between, 12 and 17 years old, and they're playing basketball, but they're focused on golf. And I look at the golf universe, especially the world of broadcast, how we want to pay attention to what's exciting. And I know there are plenty of people that want to see you when you're down. But if someone ever said that Michael Jordan's going to return to basketball, I mean, we would look at it just to say, what the world? Michael, what has he lost his mind, Big C? But the world would tune in. If we had someone like Mike Tyson returns to boxing, we think, what in the world is Mike Tyson doing return to boxing? But people would pay attention. And I think when teenage boys and girls pay attention more to Tiger Woods than they do March Madness, that tells you the needle of the young generation. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about Tiger. His professional career began before any of those kids were born, Charles.
Yeah.
And so what they learned about Tiger was them being educated through their parents and other adults.
Yeah.
About the greatness and dominance of this athlete. And I think when you're competing growing up and you're trying to learn your niche in sport,
yeah,
is that you go to the most dominant athlete of your era.
Yeah.
When you look at the NBA, there's a landscape of dominance.
Yeah.
And it rolls each year to be the next dominant player.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of players that have been throughout NBA history that were caught in bad eras.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You think about Karl Malone and John Stockton.
Yeah.
They happened to be caught in the Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen era.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might have been thought of as the greatest tandem in the NBA history.
That's true.
As far as assists and points.
Yeah.
But they were caught in the era where this team was winning 6 titles.
Yeah.
And so they did not get the notoriety.
No.
Tiger Woods came along when golf was almost on a respirator.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he added this spark, he added this charisma, he added this physique,
yeah,
and he added this articulation, which golf had not seen before.
Yeah.
He was humble, yet he was cocky.
Yeah.
He was subtle, yet he was dominant.
Yeah.
And the world had never seen the likes of him in front of the camera in this elite setting.
Yeah.
And he captivated as well as dominated.
Yeah.
And so he set himself apart, and he allowed a part of society to rise along with him, Charles.
That's a very good
That
point.
had to be respected and paid attention to.
Yeah.
And when this society found an opportunity to bring him down, they did that.
Yeah.
But he's come back, and they found themselves in that old analogy of eating crow.
Yeah. Basically, how does crow taste? I know you good up boys eat that stuff down. How does it taste, actually?
And they didn't realize how much they missed their girlfriend.
Well, that's what your girlfriend leaves you when she found out you fed her crow instead of roast beef, Big C. So we know that crow can taste good, especially when it's served cold. I do want to say that for all the golfers out there in the golf universe, you know, McIlroy, $1.6 million, even though he's not the headlines outside of putting his name up there, I'm sure he'll take the $1.6 million. And then Bryson DeChambeau, he's actually out of a Clovis East High School in Fresno, California. He came in second, won $961,000. Justin Rose, Henrik Stenson, them good boys. Ryan Moore, Tiger Woods won a paltry $338,000. It'd be nice for Tiger to win more than he shows up on the course with, Big C. That might be something at the Masters. But I think about all the other great golfers that have done a great job too, and Ricky Fowler and Jason Day and Zach Johnson, all the people that love this great game. Wouldn't it be something for the golf universe if Tiger Woods can win his 80th PGA championship at the Masters, a tradition like none other? And I think back to Dr. King, 50 years ago, when they were marching for equality, they are marching for inclusion, they were marching for equal pay, and all the civil rights needs that everybody takes for granted today. And still the Masters as a segregated course. Wouldn't it be ironic, almost universally correct, if Tiger Woods win number 80 at the Masters? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's a course that was built for Tiger. They tried to Tiger-proof it, but it's a course that's built for him.
Yeah.
The thing about it is that, he has to park his ego at the Azaleas when he arrives.
Yeah.
That's what he has to do.
Yeah.
Tiger, when we look at what he had done during this tournament, until he pulled out that driver,
isn't that something?
He was right there.
I know. He should leave it at home. Just leave it at home, Tiger.
Instead of taking that 5-iron or that 3-wood,
yeah,
and hitting it down the fairway.
Yep.
But he said, "Well, let me just go for it." But he knew mentally that he couldn't catch Roy.
Yeah.
He knew that.
Yeah.
And so, but you still have to stay in the position that you're in. You're in second place, solid.
Yeah.
But, and that's what Tiger has to do. I mean, he needs to have a more assertive caddy.
Yeah.
That's what he has to do.
Yeah.
So look, Tiger, you've been playing your butt off. Don't be stupid, all right?
Yeah.
If he can get somebody tell him not to be stupid,
yeah,
Tiger's back on his game.
Yeah.
But that's part of the caddy's duty.
Yeah.
Is to say, look, don't overthink this. Just get it in the fairway.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Be conservative.
Yeah.
You can reach this in 2.
Yeah.
But you don't need the driver to do that. You've been playing great.
Yeah.
You're on stride right now.
Yeah.
And so you saw the wheels come off when he went out of bounds.
Yeah.
He lost 2 shots right there. All of a sudden, he bogeys a hole. He bogeys the next 2 holes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's where the caddy has to help you out.
Yeah.
But Tiger also has to help himself out. Go back, watch the tape.
Yeah.
Look at what the mistakes you made. Don't think about what you did right, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Look at the mistakes that you made, and he stated, I couldn't make up my mind on what to do.
Yeah, that's a clue.
And that's what I mean by you got to have that caddy.
Yeah.
That will tell you, this is what you do.
Yeah.
This is where you've been successful at.
Yeah.
So don't blow it, buddy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And speaking of making sense, Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, what I'm looking forward to is some exciting NBA action tonight, Charlton, but also this free agent frenzy that's going on in the NFL.
Yeah.
I see your buddy John Gruden.
Yeah.
He signed Joe Johnson, a quarterback that he had in Tampa Bay. Now, we know how long it's been since he's been in Tampa Bay.
Been a long
Joe
time.
Johnson hasn't thrown an NFL pass since then.
Yeah.
What's wrong with John Gruden signing Joe Johnson and there's other quarterbacks that have been more active and even played on the other side of the Bay just a couple years ago?
Yeah, I think he's on that he was down in Tampa, was down in Florida. You know what they drink down there in Florida, Big C? You saw Smokey and the Bandit. And speaking of what they drink down south, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m., follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.